May I now take privilege in inviting Dr. Bill Oakes to deliver his keynote session on design thinking, design doing, preparing leaders and making a difference.
While we get ready, Krishna, I realized yesterday no, I was just going to say thank you, Krishna, for the original invitation many years ago and all your work since. Am I good? Okay. There's a little feedback. All right, good afternoon. Not too bad. A little bit. So I'm not going to talk about AI specifically, but how we use these kinds of tools. You know, and I got thinking about how we're looking at AI as a significant, almost unique event in our history. But I think if we go back and I look at a lot of young people, when the internet came on, it was radically different. The idea of mobile devices, that we've had different disruptions, and this is another one. I do believe it's really significant. But I think what I want to add to our thinking of the curriculum is as we add these different experiences, what are the kinds of experiences that we need for the students to take advantage of their careers and the opportunities to make a difference. When I started my career, I was a mechanical engineer in aerospace. We were frustrated with professors and believed that we could do, a lot of us in industry thought we could do better preparing future professionals. And so I went and got my PhD so I could be part of the problem. Started a position at Purdue University, and the thing that messed up all my thinking was I was assigned to teach a class that had started 3 years before, so I wasn't there when it started, but I joined in year 4 or 3. And what EPICS did is it engaged students in working on projects for community organizations. This is a picture of a sailboat for a child with a disability. So a child with any type of disability that might just use a joystick in a wheelchair could actually sail the boat. And that didn't look anything like an airplane or didn't involve AI, ML, any of those things. It wasn't a drone. Had nothing to do with nanotechnology. But what I saw at that time was the students were acting more like engineers. And I'm a professor in engineering education. And so a lot of the research that I do is in looking at the impact of the community engaged learning on students. And what we found is the students that work on these kinds of projects apply what they've learned to what they do in industry across a wide range of disciplines. And some of the key parts in this they're things that we do not teach students. Or we teach them how to be good students, but that doesn't always translate into the profession. One of them is, so in your colleges and universities, if a student got 90% of the points, would they get an excellent? Yeah? Somewhere around 90%. So we'd use A, B, C's to get an A, 90%. Okay, I want to do something, and part of this, honestly, is to make sure you're still awake. I want everybody to stand up for a moment, okay? All right, we're going to vote. Now, I want you to think about this, because tomorrow night I'm going to get on a plane to head back to the United States. Before I get on, if they come on and say, we've checked out the plane and 90% of it's working, how many stay standing if you would stay on, if you'd get on the plane? Okay? If you would not get on the plane, sit down. See, this is one of the things that we teach, and this is something that I think with all the tools, we unintentionally teach students things like, you know what, you don't actually have to finish something, you get close and you can be done. And what the research has shown in experiences like this is the students take the rest of the curriculum that we teach and combine it with that experience of working on a real project for a real person that actually got finished. And they say, that's the kind of things I do every day in my job. And so I think for us, when Krishna said, could you talk about design thinking, the real pillars of design thinking are iteration, how we can try something, especially with a prototype, figure out how it doesn't work, go back, make changes, continue. And it also involves people. And engaging people, if we engage the community, it's an interesting way to engage people, because we have motivated people. So how do we get our students interacting with people? And part of this, when I talk about these experiences, not replacing the curriculum with these. It's complementing. So the core of what we do is we teach the disciplinary things. And it's important, and when I look at this, the AI, and I love the talk right before, this is a tool. This is something that all of our students are going to need to know about and know how to use. But there are other tools too. It's how do I work with people? Those kinds of things we need to be thinking about. Some of these things on here, AI can't do either. So I think as we look at making sure that our students are learning how to interact with people, that is not something that AI can do. And at least in our lifetime, I don't see it doing that. But how do I make the connections with people, and how do we work with people? So I think when we look at tools like AI, we need to be thinking about, what is that going to free you up? What are you not going to have to do? And what does that free us up to do? What are the high value add things that we can do? Now, it was interesting because we did a couple of research studies, qualitative research studies, and we're looking at students and practicing engineers, is their progression from a novice into an expert. And we looked at design. We also looked at aerospace engineers with the ability to understand complexity and ambiguity. And what the data showed in both of the studies is you can break the progression up into two axes. One of them is the technical, the horizontal, and the other is the ability to work with people. And what we typically do in our traditional education is we take care of all the technical and then say at some point out in industry they're going to work and learn how to work with people. And the problem is that that's not how the research shows people progress. They progress at more of a diagonal, which means if we're not giving students opportunities to learn to work with others, if we're not putting them in teams to work with each other, if we're not exposing them to irrational customers that change their mind. We teach students that there's somebody in the room all the time that has the answer. And when you go out into the marketplace, when we think about design thinking, that idea of iteration is, you might tell me what you think you want, and when I build it and I show it to you, you're like, not so quite. And the threat in the marketplace is, well, I see yours, but I just saw this other person's, and I'm going to buy theirs because they have things I didn't even think about. So how do I interact with those? How do we build experiences into the curriculum to do that? Now, when I think about this, the thing that motivated me to leave a job I loved was, how do we improve the learning of our students? When I got into EPICS, I realized, and I'd never seen a connection as an engineer with how do we make a difference in people's lives. And what I've seen is we don't have to choose these, we can actually combine these. And when I think of the number of engineering institutions around the world, and even in this country, and in our countries, if every student worked on one project that improved somebody's life, our countries would be different. And I think the views of engineering would be different. It also, as educators, we constantly look for, we need a good problem this semester to work on. And we look at the community and they're there. So we've got an opportunity to make an impact. Now, when I was thinking about this, there's this concept of polarities. And some people look at this as, well, do I focus more on the community or do I focus more on the learning? And the concept, the management concept of polarity is sometimes you don't have to choose one or the other. You're figuring out where in that spectrum you need to be. And we're doing this nationally in Engineers Without Borders USA. And we were in a session and I got thinking, if I were to look at what the research says, and being an engineer, I had to like put some numbers into a spreadsheet and made a graph. So I was gonna show you, but the light colored line is student learning. The dark is impact on the community. And we're talking about this. And the idea is, as I go in this direction, I'm more focused on the community. So all the way over here is I'm totally focused on the community. Don't care if the students learn per se. Over here, I'm focused just on the learning. And I don't care about the community. I do believe when we're over here, we can negatively impact the community. I think on the other side, I don't think we negatively impact the students, but I think we miss something. But what the research shows is if I maximize learning, I actually have to honor the community because I engage students in something real. And the data is very compelling that if I'm exposing them to something real, their learning increases. And I would challenge us as we put things in is, can students work on an experience that's real? None of you stayed seated. I don't know if it's just because you saw everybody else sitting down. But I've worked in the industry, and if they said 90% of the plane's working, I wouldn't get on it either. And finishing that last 10% is hard and complex, and what our students will do in their entire career. And this is what the data said. We did a national study, and this is what the data showed. And one of the things, I think in our classrooms, I think we have a global generation, potential global great generation, that are just waiting to do something really special. And I worry that we're not preparing them. The things we're balancing is, how do we educate them today for future impact, and how do we make an impact together? And there are opportunities with service learning, community engaged learning, the kind of thing that the work that we do in EPICS can be one of those things to bring these together. So the students can learn how to make a difference. And it has the additional benefit. One of the ways Krishna got me hooked years ago, he said, imagine our democracies, when you look at it, our democracies working together. And I think it's important, especially in the days today, when you're talking with the AI things, to have leaders that are going to be citizens, and citizen leaders that understand the technology and the community needs for democracies to come back. So in our session, we're going to explore how you would do this, and with these. And these solutions can use AI in these things, but they don't necessarily have to. And I'll repeat something that I said earlier, is the data shows that getting a student to work on a real project, regardless of what the technology was, complements all of our disciplines, because they take those other things that we're teaching them in these other classes and combine it with this real experience, and it gives them an enormous benefit and advantage when they go on their careers. And we can leave the world a little bit better.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your perspectives. Your inputs has greatly enhanced our understanding.